conference title graphic.
And yours is focused on the homeless population. The library seems to be a big center for meeting.
Oh, yes. One time.
Bold. Perfect.
Okay.
So I'm assuming she's not coming.
All right, well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming to Resource Thursday. My name is Evan Bask, and I am the Programs and Events Coordinator at the Idaho Nonprofit Center. We're very happy to be here today on this lovely Thursday. Just for your information, for the people here in the room, we are streaming this throughout the state, and we're trying to spread the awareness of this event and help educate the rest of the state and their nonprofits. So we will be recording this, and there is a video camera pointing towards this direction. So if you say anything, they will be able to hear you, and then they will, for the people online, feel free to type into the questions bar if you have any questions or concerns, and then I can speak them out loud to our presenters. So feel free to be engaged if you are online and watching. At this point, I will turn it over to the lovely ladies of the library.
One question.
Yes?
You said something about the camera.
Yes.
So I'm on camera?
No.
Okay.
It's just pointed right here.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
You look good. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm Becca Cavassa with the library. It's nice to meet you all today. The library has what we call the Funding Information Center, which is a resource for the nonprofit community. We're a member of the Foundation Center, which is a nonprofit out of San Francisco and New York that provides support for nonprofits all over the United States. So we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some of the things that we have at the library for nonprofits. If you want to get the PowerPoint, if that's okay. And, or we can just go with this. This is fine too. The materials, we have print materials that you can check out. They check out for 4 weeks. You can return them to any of the library locations. If you're not here, you can get an interlibrary loan for different books. There's materials on everything from forming your nonprofit, grant writing, boards, perfect phrases for grants, fundraising. So pretty much if you have an issue with your nonprofit, the library probably has a resource that will help you to deal with that issue. So the three things that we think that you can really do here that for your nonprofit are learn how to fund it, learn how to learn about it, and get some training for your staff and for your for yourself on the nonprofit. And the advantage to using library resources, the online library resources basis is what we're going to basically talk about, are that the web is like the sea or the ocean. And everything above the ocean is like it's an iceberg. And everything that's above the ocean is what you could Google on the iceberg. But the library has access to like the underpinnings of that iceberg because there are subscription databases that we pay for so that our patrons have access to them. Most of the databases we're going to talk about today you can access with your Boise Public Library card from home or the library, but there's a couple you do have to actually come into the library to access because that's the way we are able to license them. So that's kind of what that goes like. So what we're going to talk about now is the Foundation Directory Online. And this is one that people often ask questions about. It's a grant database, so if you don't have that 501c3 status yet, and that's why you're here today to learn about, this is kind of like an incentive, because once you get that 501c3 status, you can apply for a lot of these grants. So in order to find this database, you're going to visit boisepubliclibrary.com or boisepubliclibrary.org, which Evan's going to show us how to do here. And then we're going to go over here to research and learning. We knew that was going to happen.
Yes, it's hard to see my notes.
And then there's a section right here for nonprofits. Okay, and the Foundation Directory Online, we're just going to click on that there.
Now, Becca, is this the one you have to be
This is the one you have to visit the library
to
be here. So you can access it anytime you come to Resource Thursday. You can access it from any library location that has Boise in the title. So you can go to the New Bound Crossing Library and access it, or the Kolonistik Library and access it, but you can't go to the Meridian Library and access it. Because they're funded by different taxes than we're funded, so that's why that's different. So what this allows you to do is find where you narrow down some results for your nonprofit. So we're going to go to Search Grant Makers right here. There's a few different ways to do this, but Search Grant Makers lets us search for those. This used to just have private foundations, so like a Carnegie Foundation or Bill Gates Foundation would be in there, but now government grants are in here as well. So it's got more, there's more there. So, and this doesn't, you can't, the application itself, you have to read about the grant maker and then go to their website to find it, but this helps you narrow down where you can go. So the fields that I like to use are this fields of interest, and if you go to the index, it'll give you lots of options. And I thought that we'd look at, often people come in and they want to fund an arts organization, or they want to do community development. So I thought that today we'd look at some arts education. So if you just start typing in arts, arts education right there. And you can also type it in, but it's kind of picky, so it doesn't always pick it up if you type it in. Like you might put your A might not be capitalized, and it has to have it capitalized, and so you can't find it. So the index is an easier way to go about it. Then if you just go to the index on geographic focus, and then we're going to choose Idaho. And it's got all sorts of them, like in the Bahamas, or if you're going to be doing some grants anywhere else. And then if you just click on Idaho, perfect.
It's hard to see at this angle.
You're doing great. And then we're just going to go to search. All of these other ones you can do, but those two are the ones that are going to be the most helpful. And so it's got 5 options for grants that arts education, people that want to fund arts education in Idaho. So then if you click on it, it's going to give you more information about it, and you can email this to yourself, or you can save it to a thumb drive, so you can come to the library and do that, but you don't actually have to be here for a million years. You can send those resources on to yourself. So it does things like it tells you what the limitations are of the grant, so what program areas they want to fund in, what their 990s are, which are tax records that they have to report in, so you can see if what they say they're funding is what they're actually funding, and that sort of stuff. So if you want to scroll down a little bit more, that's just kind of how, and this is how all of the different records look. And then it'll have a section that tells you what the application process is like and how that's going to work for you. So, does anybody have any questions about this one?
Well, actually, I do. I'm actually, due to my homeless advocacy and whatnot, I have had quite a bit of input with the Meridian Library. Okay, we know you don't have a book open bill anymore, but they do have really good outreach. So what is the, and it's not really nonprofit, but for the, how come they don't have this in Meridian?
Well, you know, different libraries just choose to allocate resources differently.
Okay.
And so I can't give you an answer exactly why Meridian doesn't, but we would love if you'd come down here and access it here. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. So I noticed you put in the state. Can you search by, does it have to be state specific, or can it?
No, you can, and that's a really good question, because you can also do Idaho and national. And what that'll do is that'll give you anywhere that's from Idaho or that's national. So it'll exclude things that are just for Oregon or just for Washington, but you'll get Idaho and, yeah.
Is there a Northwest?
No, it's lame, but there's not. So yeah, that's a question we get frequently, but there's not at this point.
By county.
It's on a state by state thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you select multiple states?
You can. Yeah, so you could like de facto do the Northwest, but it would have in there things that were only for Washington or only for Oregon, so then you'd have to sift through and see that too. So, yeah.
So it looks like on this one that when you put in Idaho, like this one that you put
Uh-huh.
on, looks like it's actually a national grant, that it lists
Right.
all of the states.
Exactly.
So even
Exactly.
if you just put Idaho, will it pop up with national grants?
It will pop up with national grants as well, but the ones that are just for national and don't mention
Right.
Idaho, it wouldn't pop up.
So not all of them look like this.
Right, right. Yeah, and although it looked, I didn't notice if all of the states were on there, but sometimes there'll be like 47 states on there, or, you know, something strange
now-
like that. So, yeah.
Becca, one thing I realized
Yeah.
doing some of this is that even though, well, when it pops up national, you might be in competition
National.
with national.
Yep. So this is kind of how the grant makers one works, and then the other one I want to show you is search grants, because this is awesome, because what you can do here is you can do some backwards research. So, for example, you can look at a recipient name that might be similar to your organization and see where they've gotten grants from before. So, for example, let's type in the Idaho Nonprofit Center and see where they've gotten grants from in the past. It's thinking. And I think it's Idaho Nonprofit Development Center because I looked it up earlier today in here. So.
Research phase.
Yeah. So then if you click on that, and you can also do this by like location, like you could just say, if you wanted to just find people that were also in Boise or people that were also in Rupert, Idaho, or wherever you're looking for, that's another way that you could do it. So this will show you what year the grant came, where it came from, what the grant amount was, and so this is a good way to kind of look at what else is out there and look at funding sources that might be from other.
So you could look at other states and see.
You can look at other states.
Great.
Yep. So yeah. There's a variety of different things you can do with this. There's also a companies search in here, but we're not going to get. I don't want us to get too bogged down just in this database because there's so much else to talk about. And so you can also email this list for yourself from here. And if you have any other questions about this at any point, please let us know. So this is the Foundation Directory Online, and this is the one that you have to come to the library to access. Okay, so let's go back up to Research and Learning there. Research and Learning, right there. And then the other one I want to talk about is GrantSpace. So GrantSpace is also a function of the Foundation Center, and what this is a website, so it's open from anywhere, and it has resources to help you get that grant. So there's training events, there's a blog here, there's different subjects that you can look at. If you're looking at that arts education, you can look under arts and culture and see what kind of the trends are in nonprofits there. So this is a way that you can both look how to fund your nonprofit and also look how to learn about your nonprofit. Okay, they also have webinars you can take on here. You can take those from the library, you can take those from anywhere from home. So that's one thing that the library also does. So I'm going to let Jody talk about some of the other resources that we have here. And yeah.
Okay, so so the next one on here is Learn. We go to the, if we looked at the PowerPoint. And there are, Becca talked about all of these, so we're going to actually go and talk about, we want to go to the business page. Because even though we're talking about nonprofits, you share a lot of things that are in common with businesses. And so,
As far as how you would research.
so if you, yes, as far as how you would find it. So the first one that I think you should know about is Reference USA. And Reference USA has a great number of records in it, so it's pretty thick. It takes a while to load because of that. And I would go to the U.S. Business search.
Okay, Jody, how can you get this far?
Well, you go to the library page. Okay, go back all the way up, please. Okay, so here's the library page. If we click on that, we'd be at the home page.
Right.
We clicked on Research and Learning.
Right.
Then we clicked on Business.
Okay.
And these are ones, I'm going to show you most of these can be done anywhere, from anywhere. So
With your Boise Public Library.
With your Boise Public Library. So Reference USA. Now, when we go into Reference USA to the search, there's two ways. There's a quick search, but I want to show you the advanced search because there's a lot of information in there, and there are many uses for this. So if you click on advanced search, it's not clicking. Well, it's kind of, it's doing its thing. Yeah, it's just going to take a minute.
I'm sorry, I should answer.
Okay, so anyway, here, there's a list of features that you can use. The two that I usually use is I start with keyword, and in this keyword spot, I'm going to put in the word nonprofit. And then I'm going to click on search, and I'm going to get some results. The only one that I really, really want is the very top one that says nonprofit organizations. When I click on that, it goes into the selected box. Okay, so then I'm just going to look for nonprofits in Boise. I could also just look for them for the state of Idaho or in any state or by any metro area. But just to mix it up, I'm going to click on metro area. Yep, right there. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to pick the state, and that's Idaho. So we're going to click there. And I'm going to pick the Boise, Nampa, Idaho metro area. Do it one more time. Oh, there, it's in. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, though, is that the SIC code, that's the standard industry code. So for nonprofits, it's this number, this 839998. And when you do some researching using different databases, sometimes that code comes in handy. And when we click on View Results, the green button, it tells us there are 170 nonprofits in the Boise metro area.
That are listed in here.
That are listed in here, right. It's not an exact science because there are always some out there that are not listed. I was going to click, I think the one that I wanted to show you was Boise Philharmonic. And I want to go through just this whole piece of information because this is how you can learn about nonprofits that may be doing similar things, but maybe you're doing a little bit different, or you want to make sure you're not doing the exact same thing.
Well, because that's one of the things, one of the questions that people ask when you're first starting your nonprofit is, well, is there someone else that's doing the same thing? And this gives you a tool to look and see if there's someone else who's doing the same thing.
Yep, exactly. So just some of these, we'll start with the local information. And just so you know, a verified record, that means within the last year, Reference USA has called that nonprofit and talked to them about their organization and what's going on.
So it's kind of verified?
Yes, they do. So in this particular box, you have their phone number, their address. If they have a website, it's here. And then I'm going to go on to the next things. If there are job listings for that nonprofit, they'll be listed, possibly being listed by Jobs by Indeed. So, you know that, and this one says no jobs right now. One of the reasons I told you about the SIC code and the NAICS code is because when you look at this, notice they have the nonprofit organization listed first, and the NAICS code for that is the 813319, other social advocacies organizations. But notice they also have other codes that are specific to what they have in their organization, like music, art, marketing, that sort of thing.
So, so how do I find out which code I want?
Well, you're going to probably definitely want this nonprofit. And then you're going to have to go down that list when we first started to select what you want.
And it's got a general description, so, okay.
You can use your keywords to find those
Oh, okay.
codes.
And
Yes.
another way that you could do about that is talk to your front-based local librarian to
No,
help you narrow down that code.
and not just that.
Anyone here?
Right. And so if we go down a little further, some of these things are not really fleshed out, but this business demographic is really important. It does, it tells that it's a type, they have 8 employees, they're a private business. One of the things it says when they're last updated, so this particular organization, Reference USA called them in May of 2017, so just a month ago. It tells the year they were established. It tells a little bit about the building that they are housed in. It tells their credit score rating, things like that, also their hours of operation. So that should help you if you need to call, if you need to find out more about their information, about their particular organization. It also usually has a management directory, and if there's company news, quite often it's in here. I didn't see any this time for this particular organization. This gives you an idea of their business expenditures for the year, their annual expenses. These are pretty much an estimate based on the number of employees they have and any other information that they told Reference USA, or that if they're compared to other similar organizations, their estimates. This tells, well, the business size. A lot of times the sales volume doesn't look like they reported a sales volume, probably because they're a nonprofit. Size, the employee size by year, and then keep going. Let's go all the way down to the bottom. Now, this is the interesting one. If you click on expand over on the right, then this lists what are considered their competitors. And competitors in that they take the same codes and similar interests of their organization. And I don't think that these are especially a great, because none of them actually involve music, but they probably, because they're nonprofits, they've included these for similar, for some reasons. So you can, the thing about this is you can click on the link and you're into the other competing organization. It takes a minute for it to come up, but then you can look and see the differences here. And especially down here, notice they're nonprofit and they're lobbyists. And so those are very different than the Boise Philharmonic. But it will tell you this is the same, this is different, and so on. Okay? You can also, let me see, let's go to the very top of this page. Just scroll up. Okay, we're going to have to go back one, or maybe two. I think we're going to have to go back two. So on this main list, I just wanted to show you a couple other things that you can do. You can download information. If you click these boxes of, say, the organizations you're interested in, it can save the details and you can download them to like an Excel spreadsheet. And so you have that information if you want to check back on that. Also, you can make a heat map. This is, let's take these checks off. Sorry. That's okay. I'll take that one up. So if you click on the heat map, so this heat map thing is based on the SIC lookup number and the metro area. And it can tell you about location for them. Notice the red areas where a lot of them are. It can also, when you click on that, exactly, it will give you a list and it will tell you approximate volume of work that they do. Like they call it sales volume. Not sure what they're basing that particular one on.
That's a question.
They also have numbers of employees, So you can, if you click on these, this may be just how much that they get from grants and from people donating to them and also spend. So let me see. That's
we should move on to the training bit because we
okay.
only have 5 minutes.
Okay. So let's go out of let's go back to research and learning. Okay. Let's talk about some of the training ones. Well, there's one. Let me see. I also wanted to tell you about the legal ones. So if you click on L for legal, sorry. So we have a legal clinic here for nonprofits and business startups. The first Thursday of every month, except for not next month, July, but in August, we'll start again and we'll go continuously every first Thursday of the month from 4 to 6 in this room. And there'll be about 4 lawyers here, and they talk. And their experience is in business law and nonprofit law. So anyway,
So that's not the same as a law clinic?
no, it is separate from the law
Okay.
It's
clinic.
just for nonprofits and business owners.
Exactly.
Because that's downstairs.
Exactly.
And that's like parts of
Right,
my-
no,
okay.
this
Any
is
questions
different.
to that? Is it legal clinic?
Yeah, so basically what you could do, they'll come in, they'll give you an intake form, and then they'll hook you up with a lawyer and you talk to them individually about what your concerns are. It's pretty cool. And they haven't been overrun with people yet.
So as far as like bringing in articles of incorporation, they would potentially look over that.
You get it.
Okay.
Yeah, very good.
Can you click? Can you type in nonprofit?
Is it
Nonprofit.
multiple law firms or is it one law firm before?
It's multiple.
Multiple law firms. It's, gosh, where is Spencer?
Spencer is the Attorney General's office. Yeah.
Oh,
And he arranges it. He
And
arranges
then it's
the
lawyers
lawyers.
that volunteer.
Right. So I just asked Evan to go into the legal forms, which is on that webpage. And if you type in nonprofit, you can see all the different forms that they have. They have the nonprofit, different bylaws and so on, and articles of incorporation for a homeowners association, different things. If you ever need a particular form, you might check these. These are free. You can download them.
When the lawyers were here a couple months ago, they were commenting that using these are forms that have not, that nobody has a copyright on. So some forms that might have been passed around from nonprofit to nonprofits might actually belong to a certain law firm who originally drafted it, even though you're just erasing things from it. But
So-
these ones are
And these are
open source.
specific to Idaho.
Exactly, that's the word.
Now, okay, is Gail legal forms? Because, see, I need to.
So
do
it's
a
on our
resident power of
webpage.
attorney.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Talk to us, we
you-
can help you figure out how to do that,
So this is,
or figure out how to get to the form.
okay, can you scroll up? Thank you. So let's go back and, so anyway, this is, let's go back to research and learning.
Is that any legal form or just legal forms related to nonprofits?
There's tons of different legal
Yeah.
forms in there. We did my dad's will on it last year, so like, yeah. So, there's a lot, so.
Okay, let's go to,
And
let's
that's
scroll up.
accessible from your home.
Okay.
With your,
With your
Actually, I'm sorry.
don't
Let's go
know,
back.
but you
Let's
can
go
come
to,
here to any voice library and use it, and we can check on the Meridian
Mm-hmm.
website page before you leave and check and see.
Let's go to
They-
jobs and
they prescribe it.
Okay, now I'm going into the jobs and career spot because this is all about training for your organizations and for yourself. So there's a few different things. This lynda.com is basically a video. So can you put this in? 211-500-459-8684. Actually, you know what? Let's just go into.
I don't-
So quick. Okay, I'm gonna put the password in.
I have my new,
That's great.
Yeah.
Lynda.com has a lot of different video courses in there. There's one on starting a nonprofit. There's some on marketing and stuff, so that's another thing that you could use to be prepping yourself while you're working on starting the nonprofit. There's also the Learning Express Library and GCL Free
Can you
Library, which are computer database training or computer trainings. So if you have volunteers or clientele that needs help with computer training of any sorts, I've taken the Excel class several times because I need help with Excel, and so that's another resource that the library can help your nonprofit.
What were those
nonprofit? GCFL Learn Free and Learning Express.
Right.
Learn Free, yeah.
Yep. And then this one, lynda.com, if you put in nonprofit, it brings up 573 different workshops that you can take. Some of them, especially if you're interested in like PayPal or shooting videos for your nonprofit, or how to, let me see, there was one about social media. Oh, that was this one, I think. Social media for nonprofits. And they take anywhere, you know, it tells you how long they take. This one takes 1 hour, 1 minute. You can go back to them, and anytime that you want, you will have to set up a profile when you first go in there, and you need a Boise Public Library card to do that.
So this is lynda.com?
Yes. Yes.
And I think that we have run out of time.
And that's
But we'll be here at 5:30 after Amy's roadmap, and also many other times in the library. So catch us if you have any other questions related to what we've talked about today, or any other questions. So, thank
We're
you.
gonna have lots, but we could wait. I want a secretary like that. I just say.
She did great, yeah.
That's a, it's like voice activated.
Well, thank you all. Can we give a round of applause for our librarians? We can just jump on in. I would like to introduce Amy Little. She is the CEO of the Idaho Nonprofit Center, and I will turn it over to her.
All right. Where's the click? All right.
If it doesn't work, it's too light.
Okay, I'm going to set my timer so I'm paying attention to. I'm going to set my timer because I'm a talker. And so I want to make sure I'm paying attention to giving us time for questions. Because I will talk for a whole hour, for real.
And then if you can kind of stand.
I will. Okay.
Well, it's okay if I interrupt you.
It is not. In fact, I was going to just give you guys, I'm going to set the expectation that I want you to write down questions and ask me at the end, because if you ask me questions in the middle, we won't get to the good stuff.
Right.
So write them down, and I will answer them at the last. So I've got a timer for 45 minutes. All right. So here we go. My name is Amy Little, and I run the Idaho Nonprofit Center. A little bit about me. So I have 12 years in the nonprofit sector, worked for the Boise Chamber of Commerce. I ran the Sandpoint Chamber of Commerce for 3 years. I founded a nonprofit organization, so what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is stuff that I actually know about, mostly. I also was Director of Education Impact for Treasure Valley Educational Partnership, so I basically live, sleep, and breathe nonprofits. I'm a wife, a mother, volunteer, and philanthropist, and I seriously love nonprofits. I hope that my passion will come through during this presentation. Okay, so I have 3 objectives today. This keeps me on track. The first one is I actually want to share a little bit about the Idaho Nonprofit Center and our resources because they will become helpful to you. The second thing is I actually want to walk you through some of the basic startup information, and I'm just going to tell you we're going to get in the weeds. It's going to be very weedy, and you're hopefully going to be overwhelmed when we're done, and that's part of the objective today. And then I'm going to attempt to answer your questions. And I say that because I don't have all the answers, even though I wish that I did. So we're going to start with Idaho Nonprofit Center. Our mission is to provide resources to build strong and accountable nonprofits and a platform to rally public involvement and gain support for the nonprofit sector. Fancy big words. When you're starting a nonprofit, you need to make sure you have a very clear mission statement. That's ours. Our promise is to inspire, connect, and advocate for a stronger Idaho. And I'll give you some more details about that shortly. So facts about Idaho nonprofits. We actually release a research report every 2 years called the Economic Impact of Nonprofits on our state's economy. And so that report has not yet been released. This is the most current data for you. So there are over 7,600 nonprofits in Idaho, and we are responsible for almost $5.5 billion in revenue and about $9.5 billion in assets. That's a lot. There are almost 56,000 nonprofit employees, and we're responsible for about $3 billion in total compensation. So that's wages, salary, or wages, benefits, fringe benefits, all that stuff. We're responsible for $149 million in taxes from economic activities, and we are the 5th largest employment sector. And when I give you this number, it does include nonprofit hospitals and nonprofit colleges and universities. When you take out those sectors, we're still like the 6th largest. So even without those, we're still really kind of a big deal. And another thing is Idaho likes to volunteer, and nonprofits run on volunteers so many times. And so the most recent report, our numbers of volunteers has dwindled. I'm not sure why. It was over 425,000, but part of it's how it's measured. I think we have a lot more. However, the most important piece of this is there's about 382,000 volunteers. The market value of those volunteers is $1.1 billion. So volunteers give $1.1 billion in average compensation. And without volunteers, we would have to fill another almost 27,000 jobs. So volunteers do a lot to help our nonprofits keep moving forward. So the Idaho Nonprofit Center has a lot of programs, services, and events. So I'm just going to kind of go over them quickly. And I'm going to start, this is almost but not quite on a calendar here. So in March, we do regional nonprofit forums, and we're actually shifting how we're doing them in 2018. They will become more like mini one-day conferences, and we're really going to be just pushing content and things that are important for nonprofits to help us become stronger and more sustainable over the long term. We do, raise your hand if you know about Idaho Gives. Okay, so that's our program. A lot of people don't realize that we're one and the same, but our team at the Idaho Nonprofit Center coordinates Idaho Gives, and the reason for that is really twofold. One is it is mission-centric for us because we have a tremendous opportunity to raise awareness about all the different nonprofits in our community through Idaho Gives. And it's also super fun for us to raise a lot of money for you all. And this year, we raised a record amount. In fact, we raised about $250,000 more than we did last year, and we set a new fundraising total, so which was great. We launched the Nonprofit Leadership Summit this year. We've had a previous iteration of this program, but what it is we invite executive director and a board member to attend 5 sessions, and each of those 5 sessions is focused on a topic that is important for sustainability, so long-term sustainability for the nonprofit. So we actually had our very first session on Tuesday, and it was really focused on leadership and what leadership means at the board and the CEO/executive director level, and what those responsibilities are, because they are great. And this program is specifically geared not for startups or emerging nonprofits, but really those that have a budget of around $500,000 up to, I think, $2.5 million. So there's a sweet spot of nonprofits who are at that next level and could use some deeper level training to move forward even further. In November, we do Idaho Nonprofit Awareness Month, and along with that is Philanthropy Day. So I jumped out of calendar order because it looked prettier when I put them in this order. In September 7th and 8th, the marker, write this down, September 7th and 8th, we do an annual nonprofit conference, and it's here, and it's at the Riverside this year. We're excited about that, and we have Tony Bridwell is our keynote speaker on day 1, and then we have a local, well, he's not local to us, he's from Portland, his name is Terry Gurno, and he's our plenary speaker on day 2, so I'm really excited to have both of these individuals. Plus, we have a ton of different breakout tracks, and how we pick the topics for our conference is we survey nonprofits and ask them what are the things, the subjects, the topics that are most important to you, and then we plug those into this event. So it's a ton of learning. It's great. Registration is open. We have 2 registrations. Did you guys know that? No. I looked today before I left. So woohoo, open just today. So we're excited. It's a can't miss for nonprofits. Nonprofit Resource Thursday, so you're here. Yay. So there you go. You already know all about that one. And we do that almost every month, not all of them. And we are working on figuring out how we can scale up this program statewide. So we actually have a few libraries listening in, making sure that they can get this feed. And then we'll be able to invite other nonprofits and other folks to come to the library and listen in and learn from us as well. We also publish during the legislative session an e-newsletter every 2 weeks called the Legislative Watch, and periodically we also produce like legislative alerts. And this is a really big deal. So the center, is part of our mission, is to be kind of the voice for the sector and advocate on behalf of all of our nonprofits. And so this year we've actually really started doing this more effectively. So not only are we communicating legislative issues, but we're actually actively advocating on behalf of the sector. We developed our very first policy statement this year. I traveled to Washington, D.C. and met with elected officials and their staffers. And we're really working at developing relationships at the local, county, state, and federal level. When there are issues that could impact how we all survive and do business in the state of Idaho, we are there to give voice to what our needs are. So I'm excited about that. I'm learning a lot, and I will probably be drinking from the fire hose on policy for a really long time. But that's okay, it's super fun. And then we also, I mentioned the economic impact report. I gave you some data from that. We'll be publishing that again in 3 phases. We'll have an executive summary and then a deeper dive into the data. And then finally, for the first time, we actually think we'll have some of that information broken out by county, so you can kind of get some county level economic impact information. So not a ton, but it's a first step. We also will be working on a wage and compensation survey either this year or next year, just kind of depending on when I can find some funding to get that started. But that also is a really good tool for folks when they need to hire staff to figure out what makes sense in your community, what makes sense for the role, for the size of your nonprofit, that sort of thing. So we're excited to get that out the door. So the bottom line says we are the toolbox and soapbox for the nonprofit sector, and we're proud to do it, and we're happy to do it. Thank you. Okay, so our team, so there's me, and then we have Evan, and I don't know if you met her earlier, but she's our programs and events coordinator, and then Carrie Davidson over in the back is membership and development, and June, who is not here, if you've ever called the Idaho Nonprofit Center, her name is June, and she's an angel from heaven. We love her, and she's our membership and office coordinator. I mean, no joke, just an angel. And then we have Star Brumfield. She's our accounting specialist and program support. She's the longest running employee of the Idaho Nonprofit Center, and so she has a ton of institutional knowledge that's really very helpful for us when we are talking about some new ideas that may not be new, that she's already been through. So that's really fun. And so if you have any issues with any billing or anything like that, you'll speak with her, and she's also an angel. She's a mother of 10 children. And I mean, she is an angel. We have Kim Ellsworth in the back, and she is our marketing communications coordinator. So she does a lot of stuff, our social media, communications, website, graphic design. We call her the unicorn because she just kind of does everything. And then we actually just hired a chief morale officer. Her name is Olivia, and this is her job description. So if you ever come into our office, you will meet Olivia. She's there most days. She's my dog. We adopted her from the Humane Society.
Oh, I okay, just, I know I was going to wait for questions.
She's really pretty.
Okay.
So we're super excited to have her in the office, and she will sniff you like crazy.
Black lab.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So, member benefits of the Idaho Nonprofit Center. So, when you become a full-fledged nonprofit, and when you're in the process of becoming a nonprofit, you may join the center. So, I'm going to tell you what that gets for you. So, our nonprofit members get to participate in Idaho Gives. This last year, it was free to our members, and you get discounts on training. So if you decide to come to conference and you're a member, it's a huge savings over non-member conference fees. Any of our other trainings, we always try to do a member and non-member differential. We have, when you log in as a member, we have a bunch of business affiliate members, so they're consultants or businesses, and they have joined us, and they have lots of things to offer you at a discount, but those are only available, accessible, and visible to members. We have free community event postings online. It costs non-members $10 to post anything, and people actually do pay us $10 to post things, so that's a good sign. That is a well-traveled calendar. And then we have a job board. So, and I joke about this all the time. So besides being a soapbox and toolbox for the nonprofit sector, we're also like a one-man employment center for people looking for nonprofit jobs. So our job board is like the 3rd or 4th most heavily traveled section on our website. And so when people are looking for jobs, they visit our job board. A lot of nonprofits, most nonprofits will post jobs. So for members, it's $25, and it's $125 if you're not a member. And I know I worked for Treasure Valley Education Partnership, and I can tell you right now, We did not get applications in until we were on this job board, and I'm not saying that because I work for the center now. It's just, honest to goodness, it's great. So that's a huge discount and a benefit for members. We also feature a nonprofit every month in our Centerview newsletter, so we can share some of the great work and people can learn about other nonprofits in the state. We have a proud member logo for your website. We actually, from time to time, randomly will have donations of office furniture and any like good stuff. And so we'll push things out to our members and say, hey, we've got this company and they have all this free furniture, and we'll only send it out to our members, and that's really fun for us to be able to do. And then if you've ever heard of Society for Nonprofit Organizations and Grant Station, we actually are able to offer that. It's like $30 a year or something, and normally it can be like $300 to $600 depending on where you're getting it from, so it's a huge discount as well. So if you're not a member, you can still access, we have a helpline on our homepage. And if I have time before I leave, actually, we could do a quick tour of the website, but there's a place where you can ask us questions. If you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning as you're working on starting your nonprofit and you have a question and you want to ask it, you can ask on your helpline. We won't answer you till we're awake, but it's there 24 hours a day. You can also access, we have a resource center of all kinds of different things that you might need to know when you're starting a nonprofit. And again, I can show that to you. You can access a lot of our programs and trainings at the non-member rate. You can receive the Legislative Watch newsletter, our Centerview, and we also have a bi-weekly newsletter that comes out called the Nonprofit Navigator. Raise your hand if you get the Nonprofit Navigator. So that's new. That was Kim's brainchild. We love it because it gives us an opportunity to highlight other things that other people are doing to support nonprofits in the community and connect you with training opportunities, funding opportunities, that kind of thing. So that's that. So here's just a quick overview of our dues. We're actually restructuring a teeny bit. So we will no longer be going by operating budget, but it will be by your annual total expenses on your 990 form. So if your gross receipts for your nonprofit exceed $50,000, you will have to file a 990 form, and a CPA has to do it. And you will have lines like 17 or 18 will tell you what your annual expenses are, and that's what will determine your membership fees. If your gross receipts are $50,000 or less, the change that we're making is $50,000 or less, your dues will be $50. So we're just making a quick little tweak on that, and that should launch in June. And then we're going to add another level down here at the bottom. So I think it was like up to 10 million or something. I can't remember, but we'll be announcing that later. So the dues are compared to the value that you get for your membership, the dues, especially when you're just getting started. And I will tell you, I joined the Nonprofit Association from Oregon. When I started my nonprofit there, I just paid out of my own pocket because it was worth it, and I counted it as a donation to the nonprofit. And then when I moved here and opened my doors here, I did the same thing. And it was a donation, and it's worth it. So starting a nonprofit, so here's where it gets super fun. I'm going to give you a disclaimer right now. You are going to think that I'm trying to talk you out of it. I am, honestly. I'm going to give you a lot of information that is hopefully going to make your head spin. And there's a reason for that, but then I promise that I'm going to bring it back and get you excited at the end. But I'm going to like throw a lot of stuff at you right now. So, my disclaimer. I am not authorized to give legal advice or offer consulting services to startup organizations. That's my disclaimer. And I know that Becca and Jody both mentioned that on the first Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. is the legal clinic. Those people can answer those technical questions for you. All right? And I highly recommend it, and they're great people. All right. So what does nonprofit mean? So we talk about this a lot. So nonprofit means that you are exempt from paying income tax, taxes on the income that your nonprofit makes. They are for-good organizations, and profits are used to further the mission of the organization, whereas for a business, profits can be paid out to shareholders and board members, etc. But you should run your organization like a business. You should run your organization like a business. You can make money, and you should use that money and put it in the bank for a rainy day. True story, when I ran the Chamber of Commerce in Sandpoint, we were a business organization, but still a nonprofit, and I love telling this story because it's true. The very first year that I worked there, we actually made money. We had like $12,500 at the end of the year. And I had a board member, not making this up, who said, oh, we made money? We should have a party for our members, so we don't like have that on our books for next year. And I was like, what? We should put that in savings. We should like save that for, and we should keep putting money in savings, because what happens when the economy turns and then all of a sudden our membership dues tank or our events tank and we have no money in the bank? And he was like, but we're a nonprofit. I said, no, that's a tax classification. We can make money, and we're a business organization that should lead by example. So anyway, that board member and I continue to, needless to say, we did not throw a party for our members.
Been there, done that.
Yep. So, and don't think about the now when you're thinking about nonprofits. I want people to always think about long-term sustainability. So you might start something, and there's a great idea, and you want to fix something, or there's a need that you identify, but it's not right now that's important. It's 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. So that's why you'll hear us say run your organization like a business. And I have to throw this disclaimer out there too, because this happens a lot, but tax exempt is not sales tax exempt. So you might be tax exempt from paying income tax. Idaho has very few organizations that are exempt from sales tax. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. They're on the Idaho State Tax Commission website. But just know, very few organizations are sales tax exempt. Most of them have to pay sales tax. We are one of them. So make sure you know. And then when you're getting started with your nonprofit, I have this note before you go. There are 27 different types of nonprofit organizations. I highly recommend you go to charitynavigator.org, because they have a really good list of what they all are and what makes sense. And again, that legal clinic, that's another one where I would say if you're not sure what type of, there's membership organizations that are like trade associations, that's a C6. There's one if you want to do political advocacy, that's a C4. So I highly recommend actually consulting with the experts before you start getting your paperwork in order to become a nonprofit. So there you go. So questions to ask yourself. So I have a little list, and I made these up, and then I found an article that backed me up. So these are things that I recommend you think about before you get started with a nonprofit. So number one, are there no other organizations doing what I would like to do? Is my idea so unique that there's not one other organization out there in my community that's doing what I want to do? If you can answer yes to that question, you can choose your own adventure and move on to step 2. But if the answer is no, I think I can identify an organization that has a similar mission or similar programs and things that I would like to offer. What I would beg of you to do is to make yourself available to that organization. Volunteer to serve on a committee. Volunteer for the organization. Volunteer your expertise or your services. Get yourself on the board. Fundraise for them. Do that, because there is, and I will tell you, it's tough to keep a nonprofit running. You have to fundraise for yourself, and there can be a finite amount of resources. So ask yourself this question: is my idea so unique that no one else is doing it? If yes, proceed to question 2. Do I have startup capital and a plan for ongoing funding? So a business has a product that you can sell or a service that you can sell. A nonprofit is a little bit tougher, so you have to really think about the type of nonprofit, the mission, the services, the programs that you're going to offer, and how you're going to pay for ongoing funding and sustainability. So if you don't have startup capital and you're not willing to self-fund it, this is where your adventure ends. Do I have a clear mission and a vision for the organization? So do you know what you want to do, and do you have a vision for where you want to be? If yes, then you have to ask this question: do I have a solid board of directors in place that do not include friends or family? Unless those friends or family meet some certain criteria, which I will talk about later. But I highly discourage people from inviting friends and family to join your board. And if you can't answer that question, your adventure ends here. Are you prepared to invest your own money to get this organization off the ground? So again, if you don't have startup capital, if you're not willing to fund it, if you're not willing to have some skin in the game, and your friends and family on your board aren't, are you prepared to invest your own money in this to get things going? Are you aware that starting a nonprofit does not mean that you'll immediately have a paying job unless you're well funded as a startup? And I tell you, honestly, I will have people that want to start a nonprofit because they want to create a job for themselves. It's really hard to do that. Am I prepared to give up many hours of my own time to keep this organization going? If you're prepared to give up many hours of your own time, and you can answer yes to that question, that's good. It takes a lot of time.
24/7.
24/7. And this is to me, this is the most important question right now. Ask yourself, are you willing to ask for help? Google doesn't count. Are you willing to call the IRS? Are you willing to call the tax commission? Are you willing to call the Idaho Nonprofit Center? Are you willing to call an attorney? Are you willing to call a CPA? Are you willing to call and ask for help from the people that can help you? And if you aren't the kind of person that can ask for help, are you willing to call a board member? Are you willing to call a friend and say, look, I'm super excited about this. I need $250 to get this thing off the ground. If you are not willing to ask for help, this is where your adventure will end. All right, I got this article, 4 mistakes that could cripple your nonprofit startup. It's at thebalance.com. And these are some good ones. Lack of research and planning. So do you have a business plan? We think, oh, we have this great idea and we're going to fix a need in the community and we're going to start a nonprofit, but do you have a business plan? If you don't have a business plan, again, where's your funding going to come from? How are you going to get things moving? Have you done a feasibility study? That goes back to that first question. Is there no one else doing what you're doing? So is it feasible? Is the idea that you have, if it is unique, is it feasible? Is it something that people need? Do you know, is this really truly a need or is it a need in your own circle? And then have you done that needs assessment to make sure that this is really something that people will need? Lack of financial knowledge. Okay, this one's huge. Like I can't even tell you how big this is. Do you have realistic expectations about your nonprofit? Do you really have realistic expectations about what it's going to take? Do you know about funding resources? We are super lucky here to have the library, Becca and Jody, and all the resources. And I even pulled like books here and they're upside down. So just go like this and you can read them. But great resources here. So know about funding resources. Use the resources that they have. But understand what it means to have a fundraising and a development plan. So it's great to have an idea, but you have to figure out a way to fund it. And I hate to break it to you, but people are not standing up there waiting to write you checks. I was hopeful when I started mine, but it didn't quite work that way. It was hard. And understanding financial controls and reporting, and this is a big one. This is huge. You mess this up, it'll create way more work for you on the back end. Trust me, I have been there, I have done that, I have 5 t-shirts right now. Make sure that you know your financial stuff, and if you don't, that board of directors that you're pulling together, you have somebody or some buddies that understand this stuff. Think that starting a nonprofit is easy. It is not. Many, many steps to apply for exempt status, which I will go over with you shortly. And passion is not enough. You have to be realistic about what you're getting yourself into. It is not easy. And not having an effective board. So again, remember when I said don't have your friends and family on your board? It's great if they want to support you, but have them help you find people to volunteer, help them help you find people to donate, have them help you organize a startup fundraiser, like engage them in those ways, but don't put them on your board unless they have resources that they can offer your organization, unless they have influence to support you and your mission, unless they have contacts that you can leverage to help build your organization. Make sure that your board also has an unfailing belief in your mission and that they can open doors for you. They have to be able to do those things because your board, they have, and I'm not going to get into the legal issue of this, but fiduciary responsibilities for your organization, which is financial, and their role is to help you fundraise. If they're just sitting on your board because they want to help you out because they love you and you're their best friend or their daughter or their wife, it's not going to help you out. These are so, so important. And again, from thebalance.com, same article, 4 mistakes that could cripple your nonprofit startup. Also from that website, so some of the things that some of the experts that they surveyed asked them about. So from the experts, one of the biggest challenges is focus, strategy, marketing, and awareness planning. So do you have a focus? Or are you like too broad? Do you have a good strategy for marketing and awareness? Like, how are you going to get your message out there? And if you've, got this great thing that you're doing and you're going to fix this thing and you've got these people, you've got all this stuff, but you don't know how you're going to get the word out, it's like having a party and inviting everyone and nobody shows up because they forgot that you sent the invitation. Follow your mission and have a well-structured plan. So make sure that you do have that plan in place and follow it to the letter. So even just getting started, it can't hurt to have a strategic plan for your startup. Stay focused on your cause. So what will happen with this, and the reason that they say this is sometimes we get distracted by a carrot. So we'll see a funder has a carrot, and maybe that grant is kind of close to what we want to do, but not quite enough. So we say, well, maybe we could shift a little bit about what we're doing so we could access those funds. Don't do it. Stay focused on your mission, because all of a sudden you're going to be diluted and you won't have the resources, the people, or the assets that you need to actually implement what you get from those grant funds. So they say stay focused on your cause. Identify a leader ASAP, and this is important. And a lot of times when you get started, you have an all-volunteer organization, but you clearly have to identify the person that is your leader, whether that's you or somebody else, but you have to have somebody that's leading the charge. Somebody has to drive that bus. And if you're doing it as an all-volunteer committee and you all have equal say and there isn't one person stepping up to take ownership and shepherd and steward, I hate to tell you, but you're gonna get really frustrated really, really quick. And I'm not making this one up. These experts literally said, join the State Nonprofit Association. That's the Idaho Nonprofit Center. That's all I'm going to say. I didn't make it up. It was on there. And then provide board development, and that's something that we can help with. So over the next year or two, we're going to be developing some more training for boards and for board chairs and executives. So that's something that we can help with. Plus, we have a ton of resources on our website to help you with board development, making sure, and I will put one final plug in, when you're recruiting board members for your board, please oversell the commitment. Tell them, don't say it's just one meeting a month. That's a lie. It's never just one meeting a month. Tell them exactly what you need from them. I need you to come one meeting a month, and when you walk out of my door, I need you to have 3 things that you're going to do between now and the next meeting, and some of those things involve helping us secure in-kind resources or donors or some funding or helping you write a grant. Like, make sure that you tell them, oh, by the way, it's 1 meeting a month for the board plus stuff in between. And also our bylaws say you need to serve on at least 1 board committee. So oversell, scare the daylights out of them before they join your board. Because if you say, oh, it's just 1 meeting a month in the committee and there's not that much to do, and then they get on the board and then all of a sudden you're asking them for all this stuff, they will circle the drain and then will walk away. You want good people that are passionate about your mission, that are willing to do what you need them to do to get this thing off the ground. That's my plug on that. All right, checklist. So there's a checklist out there, and it actually lives on our website, so that the hyperlinks that you see in there where it says click here, clearly you can't click on the paper, but on our website, you can actually click to the link. So I'm just going to go over what's on the checklist, and then, like I said, I'm going to get deep in the weeds with you guys today. So things that you need to kind of like know or do or think about is you need to know the name of your nonprofit, and you need to have a mission and a vision figured out. I highly recommend that you've already identified at least 3 board members to help you with this process, because you need their buy-in. So if you come up with a mission and a vision and then you serve it up to your board and say, so here's our mission, here's our vision, right there you've already kind of said, I mean, I want you here, but like I'm going to make the decisions. If you can engage them at the very beginning, they'll be that much more passionate, excited about what you're doing. You need to have your bylaws written. And there's a lot of different templates out there, and I'm going to show you a little bit later on. You guys had bylaw templates, didn't you, in that library of resources? So again, love the library. Have no idea how lucky we are in this community to have the resources that they have for you. And then once you kind of get few of these things, you're going to register with the Secretary of State, and it's going to cost you $30. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that later. Then you have to get your EIN, and this is not $400. That's supposed to be on the 1023. I apologize for that error. Your EIN is free. The EIN is free, so you have to get that. So articles of incorporation, then you get your EIN, then you go to the 1023 IRS form. Do not do 1023 easy. It'll take longer for you to get your status, and there'll be a lot more questions and a lot of stuff that you're going to have to redo. So don't do the easy. I don't know why they make that form available. I have heard nothing but issues from people that have used the easy form. Just put on your sweatpants, grab a cup of coffee, and just get ready for the long haul of the 1023. It will pay off in the end. Then you're going to, if you're going to have employees, you're going to need to register with the State Tax Commission and the Department of Labor. And I won't go into that. And then you're going to want to secure your website URL, your Facebook page, your Twitter handle, and any other social media like Instagram, any of those. Your website, when you buy like your www.myawesomenonprofit.com, is going to cost you money right there, depending on which one you use. Business cards, you're going to want business cards. There's all kinds of little startup expenses that you don't even think about. And if you're going to develop a website, there's free, like Weebly is a good kind of like site. It's super easy to use, and you can just kind of at least have like a front page for your web. I think you have like 3 pages on it. So you can use some free web design stuff to get started, but like once you get up and rolling, it's not going to be good enough, and you're going to need something more detailed, and that will also cost you money. So starting a nonprofit costs a lot of money. I'm just telling you right now. I spent about $1,500 getting mine up and running, and that's actually pretty good. So Secretary of State Articles of Incorporation. So this is probably the easiest form that you're going to have to fill out, and I actually brought one. And it's cool because, so this is for Idaho. They have a little checklist for you. I love checklists, so you know exactly what they're expecting of you. It's 1 page, my favorite, 1 page, 5 minutes, you can do it. But you need to have 2 copies of this. And the things that you're going to need is the name of your name and the name of your organization, your mission, which is your purpose, a registered agent, typically that's you, and then your board of directors. Again, please not friends and family unless they can totally hook you up. Incorporators, you only need at least 1. So, and that can also be you. Mailing address, and then this is important, asset distribution upon dissolution. So you have to know where, if you close your doors at some point, where the assets for your nonprofit will be distributed. So whether they're monetary or any other kind, you have to specify what you're going to do. And then you need to have the signatures of incorporators. So if you have 1, then just the 1 signature. If you have 3, you need all 3, but you have to sign them and print your name and all that stuff. So this form is $30. If you handwrite it, they charge you an extra $20 to decipher your penmanship, apparently. So, and then if you want it expedited, if you're in a real big hurry, it's another $20. So $50 to $70, $30 to $70, depending on what your situation is for this form. And you're going to need 2 copies, because one of them you're going to use when you file your 1023, not the easy, but the 1023 form, and I'll explain that. So your EIN application. So you can apply for an EIN if your principal business is located in the U.S. or U.S. territories. I just threw this on there. But this is key. So the person has to have a valid taxpayer identification number, so social security number, any one of those. And you have to have your mission and your purpose already figured out. The trick to this one is you can only complete it in 1 session. So they don't have a save and come back to it function. So you have to get in and you have to get through the whole thing. But it's instant gratification, which is super cool, because if you make it through the whole thing, you get your EIN forms like that. So that's like on the plus side. But you have to be ready to do it all at once. So you download, save, and print that confirmation and keep that. Save it, and I would save it to a thumb drive. I would save it to your computer. I would print a copy. I would save it in a lot of, speaking from experience, just put it in a lot of places. Stick it under your pillow. And then again, you need your incorporators. You need to know your legal structures. And this is important because it's going to ask you what the legal structure of your organization is. And I'm going to say this right now. If you have to call me and ask me or anyone else to walk you through the EIN, you shouldn't complete the form. I'm not kidding you, because you got to know your stuff to do this. I hate to say it, but it's true. I actually had somebody call me and ask me to walk them through the process. So once you get your EIN and you've printed your confirmation, yay, instant gratification, now you get to do the fun stuff. I would give yourself a day in between. Get up early, go for a run, walk the dog, get your 32-ounce coffee, and then I put the form. So I actually brought a copy of that form, and it's like 30 pages. Not all of them need to be completed. They're great instructions. I will also tell you, the IRS has a 40-minute webinar that you can watch anytime, night or day, that tells you all the stuff that you need to complete this form. You can do it yourself. You can also have an attorney do it for you for a fee. I did it myself when I started my nonprofit, and magically, I actually got approved all by myself. It was crazy. People are like, oh, you're never going to get that. Took them a year. It's not instant gratification with the IRS, I hate to tell you. Just saying. But, so, if you go to this website, irs.gov/charities-non-profits, that's where you can find all the resources. And they have a whole packet that you can download. They have the webinars that you can watch. And again, don't use the easy. You can do it yourself. If you don't know what you need to do, probably shouldn't apply because it's a lot of work. Now, it's $400 or $850. It's a minimum of $400. If your nonprofit will have $10,000 or less in gross receipts on an annual basis, you pay $400. If you are at $10,000 and $10,001 or more, the fee is $850. There's not a sliding scale. I don't know. It's the IRS, but that's what it is. So it's $400 or $850. You need those articles of incorporation from the Secretary of State. So remember I told you to keep a copy. You're going to need your bylaws. You're going to need to know what your budget's going to look like. Again, remember I said you need to know where's your income going to come from? What are you going to spend? What are you going to need? You basically have to have your business plan together, your financial plan, in order to do this. And then your past, present, and future activities. So have you been doing anything? Have you been operating without a 501c3 status in the past? What are you doing right now? And what are your future plans? So there's that business plan for you. So you need all of these things to do your IRS form. And again, it's lengthy, it's time-consuming. There are tons of resources out there. You can call me and ask me any question you want, and I'm going to tell you to call the IRS. And they are helpful, which is funny for me to say IRS and helpful in the same sentence, but it's true. They are helpful. Just plan to be multitasking when you're on hold with them because it can take a while before they get to you. So for the bylaws, you can go to idahononprofits.org or Google or to the library where they have those templates that you can use. You're going to need to know the name of your organization purpose. You're going to need to define membership, and you might be thinking, well, my organization is not a membership organization. That's okay. What qualifies for membership on your board of directors? That's probably what will go in that section. Are you going to have board committees? Are you going to have officers, executive committee? How are you going to handle contracts, checks, loans, indemnification, fancy words like that? There's a whole, you can have a miscellaneous section for anything that doesn't fit into any of the other categories. Transparency and accountability, code of ethics, and how you handle any amendments to your bylaws. So if you start your bylaws and your organization grows and you change, you know, maybe you want to add another person to your executive committee or another committee or whatever, how do you handle amendments to these bylaws? And there are also templates. We have some stuff on our website that members can access as well. Other recommendations. True story. Remember I said you cannot be afraid to ask for help. So call the IRS with questions about the 1023 form. And I seriously, I called them. Oh, I hounded them. Like, I'm sure they had my number on caller ID with like a warning, crazy, when I would call them. But I call them all the time with questions when I was filling out the form, when I was waiting for my status, all of that. And they are actually pretty helpful. Call the Secretary of State with questions about articles of incorporation. And then if you have questions about taxes, call the State Tax Commission, and they actually, again, super helpful. We had a sales tax thing we had to ask about this year at the center, and they were awesome. They know their stuff. They know the code. They're actually pretty friendly, which I was like thinking tax people are going to be kind of grumpy. Not at all. They were really nice, and they totally got my weird sense of humor. So big fan. So don't be afraid to use your phone. Again, with the IRS, like have a magazine because it's going to take a while. Use the Idaho Nonprofit Center helpline with any other questions you might have. Join us if you've got some funds available. There's great templates and resources available for members, including the bylaws templates. Use the library. Come here or access them online. They have a lot of really good resources. And I've even had people say, well, I bought this book on Amazon. Don't buy the book. Come to the library. I mean, seriously, there's a Nonprofits for Dummies book, which like I needed. But they have Nonprofit Bookkeeping and Accounting for Dummies, Charity and Philanthropy for Dummies. There's a Nonprofit Kit for Dummies. I mean, seriously, this is like pictures and words, small words for me. This
I
is
actually
what I
read them
mean.
upside down.
Yeah, good job. Every nonprofit's tax guide, fundraising for the genius, starting and building a nonprofit. So, and this is just the startup stuff, and they have like dozens more in this genre, but tons of resources, and we're super fortunate. So don't buy any books on Amazon. Come check them out at the library. And I know she gave you some. See, there's Grant Writing for Dummies. I needed that book. So great resources here as well. So a couple of other things to know. I'm actually sweet. I was hoping I would be done at 5:15. I'm really close. So make sure you know what your fiscal year is. And this is important because it's not the same as your calendar year, and I will tell you what happened to me. So I filed my paperwork in March of 2012. I had applied to the state of Oregon, which I don't recommend doing business as a nonprofit in Oregon, and I can tell you about that over wine some other day. But I put my fiscal year on my paperwork as January through December. I applied in March to the IRS. The IRS actually made my fiscal year July 1st through June 30th, and I found that out the hard way when I went to file my taxes. So that was fun. That was a lot of work to straighten that out. In fact, I'm still straightening it out in fiscal year 2014. And then put reminders to do your taxes. So this is important. So every year you have to register with the Secretary of State in Idaho, but the good news for you is it's free. In Oregon, it's like $150 for me to register with the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State. Here you're lucky. You pay the fee one time, but you still have to keep it current. So every year, so put a calendar reminder in, and you usually get a little postcard. Here's what I'll tell you about that too. Two things. Have an info@ email address. So no matter who is involved in your organization, people come and go. If you have an info@ email, somebody will get notifications. But if you have their first letter and last name or whatever, and then they're gone and they're the ones getting the note, they're just bouncing back. So an info@. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, have a PO box that you check. So these are things I've learned. Don't have it sent to your house because I moved 3 times seriously, I started 3 times. And they can't track you down, and they don't try that hard. So you'll miss things if you don't have one place that all of your mail goes. Because you want to make sure that you file your taxes. Now, I remember earlier I said if your gross receipts are under $50,000, you just file this postcard, and it's super easy, and you get a little email confirmation from, and again, IRS and easy don't usually go hand in hand. But if your gross receipts are under $50,000, you do a postcard. Let's see, my thing is beeping at me. It's like, what is that sound? If you are over $50,000, then you are going to have to pay a CPA to file your taxes for you, and it is not cheap. It is not cheap. And the more you do and the bigger your budget is and the more you spend, the more you're going to spend on a CPA. And they really aren't allowed to do it for free. Like, they can help you. You still usually have to pay some sort of a fee. Like, it's not something they can typically just like do for you. Because they can do it, but they have to actually file it on your behalf. And so then if there's anything wrong with it or if there's any issues, it comes back on them. So that's why they like you to have a little skin in the game. And then you renew your registration in Idaho, and you have to file your taxes on time. So if you don't, so this is the funny thing. So the IRS doesn't pay attention until you start making a lot of money. And this is how I found out the hard way. So I filed the postcard for 3 years, and I filed it 6 months late because, again, my assumption was on my paperwork I put what I wanted my fiscal year was. They changed it to something completely different, and I didn't pay attention because I'm busy, right? I've got another job. This is my volunteer job. So then when I actually realized, oh my gosh, my gross receipts are over $50,000, I need to file my taxes, and I got my CPA, and my CPA called me, and she was like, what have you been doing? You have not filed your taxes on time, and oh my gosh, and your fiscal year is this, and you've been, oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. She made me cry. True story. It's my friend's mom. I don't know, it's a mom thing. But I was terrified, and she was like, this is going to cost you a lot of money. Like, this could be like $1,000 fine or interest or whatever. I was scared to death. But we fixed it. We wrote like the CPA wrote like a long letter on my behalf and demonstrated that while I had filed my postcards 6 months late for 3 years in a row, I at least filed them at the same time 3 years in a row. So they were like, okay, so it was fine. And then your 990s become public records. So our 990s are posted on the Idaho Nonprofit Center website. Most nonprofits will post them on their website. You can also go to, I think Charity Navigator has them. We're GuideStar people, so you can find them on GuideStar. You can look up any nonprofit that you would like and look at their 990s. If they file the postcard, it won't have the information, but if they file their taxes, it will. So just know that people are looking at them. And I get calls from folks from the media sometimes, what about this nonprofit? And what about that nonprofit? And I say, if you have concerns about their financial situation, look them up on GuideStar. I'm not going to help you. So are you overwhelmed? No?
Well,
Raise your hand if you're overwhelmed.
Well,
Raise your hand if you're like,
the thing is,
yeah, I'm ready to do this.
I know half of this, but
Okay.
I didn't know the other half.
All right, so who's excited? Who's ready to start their paperwork? Yay! So you answered yes to all of my questions, and you're ready to go. You've got all the information, right? So that's good. So remember I said I was not going to say, like, I was going to be Debbie Downer first, but if you've made it through this and you're not completely terrified and ready to run screaming the other direction, then you can choose your own adventure and you get to get started in the process. So now is where I attempt to answer your questions.
Also, if you're listening in online, feel free to write in the questions bar and I can read it out loud for Amy.
Yeah.
I'm associated with a nonprofit that is starting up, and we filed the EZ. It hasn't been approved yet, it's pending. Can you convert to the long 1023 form mid-process?
I would call the IRS and ask them that question. I really don't even know. But have a video game or a People magazine or something while you're on hold. But I would call them and ask them that question.
Come down to the library, read a book.
Yeah, go to the library, read a book. Yes.
So what factors do you consider when you're deciding which state to file in? Like you said, you don't file in Oregon.
So if your nonprofit is primarily focused in Idaho, then it's Idaho. If you plan to have services in other states, but your primary office is here, then that's what I would do.
And that's okay.
And it's totally okay. And Idaho is a lot simpler than Oregon. Washington has and every state's different, so every state decides and governs how they're going to, have you file or be recognized in the state. So, and the other thing I will tell you too, so I learned this one the hard way. So whatever state you start in, if you decide to move all of your operations into a completely different state, it's actually hard to do. So you better be sure that that's where you're going to maintain operations, because in a lot of cases you actually have to end up totally dissolving the entire corporation and then starting from scratch again. So make sure it's the state you want to be in. Yes, ma'am.
I have a one. This is one of my board members, and I was
Oh,
going to say that we
yay!
should file an EZ. And I think I counted 11 times. He said, whatever you do, don't use EZ. So.
It's okay.
But I got through the process. We met the criteria, and I pushed send.
Yeah.
So
now it's the leading game.
yeah.
And
so,
and
are we just doomed?
no, you're not doomed. It just can take a lot longer. And then they may come back to you and say, we're missing this piece of information, or you didn't include that. And so you just may have to provide additional documentation. And here's what I would say too, don't hesitate to bother them. Do not. And I got my IRS designation in 1 year, and I swear it's because I literally had a calendar reminder on my calendar, and I called them constantly. How's it going? What's the deal? What's the update? Do you need anything? And I think they're finally just tired of calling. So don't hesitate to bother them. Ask them what they need, what they're missing. Yes, ma'am.
So we're just kind of, the board that I'm working with, we're just kind of starting the initial exploratory kind of feasibility phase. Do you have any ideas as far as resources? We haven't done a specific business plan or defining our future goals or anything like that. Just where to start in that process.
I don't know if they'll do this, but there's an organization called, there's Service Corps Retired Executives, and they're part of the Idaho Small Business Administration, and they do business planning for people starting businesses. You might actually ask them if there's anybody in their office that might provide nonprofit startup support. I don't know what Trailhead does. I know they're trying to kind of work in some nonprofit stuff, and that's kind of like a business incubator in Boise. I actually have a meeting with them in a few weeks to kind of talk about like how we might be able to partner together. So you might check out Trailhead and see what resources they have. There's always small business offices in Idaho, and sometimes they might have some resources to help you with that as well. And it's usually all free. And really, like I said, nonprofits are businesses. It's just a different tax classification. So really, you should be able to access those resources, and I would ask.
Just at helpful VSU might have some resources as well. I think in their business department they have some free resources for businesses and those who can start up. So.
Yeah, and actually that's a great point too, and sometimes universities will be able to loan graduate level students to help. Every now and again we'll get Boise State will call us and say, so we have this class and they want to develop a social media campaign for a nonprofit or whatever. So you just never know what resources a university might have, so that's a really good suggestion. Or interns, yep, that
Yes,
too.
actually, I'm in a unique position because I'm on like 4 different boards. Okay, I'm on the Mayor's Roundtable. My focus is mandated by HUD, continuing care to end homelessness. But the thing is, I've been sort of executive committees and boards on it. I'm also on the Catholic Workers board, and and a lot of 501c. The thing is, you need your focus. You need to pinpoint your focus on what you're going to do, like you were saying.
Yeah, know what you're doing.
There are a lot of things out there to combine your focus.
And I would also say too, like leveraging partnerships with other organizations is a good thing. Just stay true to
Community partnerships.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are a little bit past some of this. We filed all our paperwork, the loan paperwork.
Yay!
And I can say it is not for the faint of heart.
It's not. Good
It was
job.
rough and it took a really long time, but we'll do that. So we're kind of in the waiting game. It's been several months. Is it worthwhile to pursue grants while you're waiting for that status, or is it better to wait
What
until we have this
I would again recommend that you contact the IRS and find out, because and this was true when I started mine, but I don't know if it's still true because stuff changes all the time. But any donations made were tax deductible, and so technically you have the status even though it wasn't official. But I would call them.
Well, we
and
got
ask
the
them.
paper that said that. I just didn't, as
Okay.
far as with local foundations, all that, do they typically even look at it if you don't have that status for certain?
If you don't, and that, you know what I would say? I would actually ask Idaho Community Foundation. They would probably be able to tell you whether or not, like typically, because they work with a lot of different family foundations, and I would not be able to tell you that one for sure. But that is a great question, and I will call Community Foundation.
The grant administrator might be able to provide you information as well. Like for example, quantify for GPI, then you could contact their grant administrator. Maybe.
Yeah, we
It's
have
a lot
been
of work,
doing it
but-
one by
Yeah.
one, but I was just
Yeah.
curious if you had any.
It's a big paperwork.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to kind of piggyback on what
Yeah.
you said. Sometimes the grant, the criteria for the grant, if you call the grant administrator, they can, sometimes if they have a 501c3 pending status, that meets the criteria. So,
Thank you.
So just back to articles of incorporation
Yeah.
and bylaws. Basic questions that, does the board have to meet a certain number of times a year or at all?
I would recommend you should at least convene annually. And then I would say your bylaws should specify the frequency that you would meet and also kind of the requirements for board membership. But you should be talking to your board at least once a year and updating them. And
Right, but are you legally required to?
that is a great question to ask the attorneys. I can't answer any legal questions.
No,
So I ask them the legal questions.
I don't understand, I've got another question. And do you have on your website, or could you run down what the legal responsibilities of board members are as you're going to recruit them? Not only do you have to do what you said.
Yes, we do. So the Attorney General's office has a if you want to spend the time reading it, which I highly recommend that you do, it's linked on our website under management resources, but you can also find it on the Attorney General's site, and it literally lays out those fiduciary responsibilities, those legal responsibilities for a member of your board of directors. Yes, that is on there. Yes, ma'am.
We're in the very beginning of our nonprofit as well. Are there any requirements in terms of how you name your nonprofit?
I don't think so. I know you should probably make sure that you can do a search of the Idaho Business Registry, just to make sure that somebody doesn't
Right.
already have the name that you're looking for. That's like
Do
the
you
big
have
thing.
to have, corporation or limited or anything like that in your name? Okay.
That is a lawyer question as to corporation limited, or that is a lawyer question as to.
But name, like
But as
there's,
far as the name,
name,
as long as nobody, like say, the business registration, as long as nobody else has that copyrighted name, then
yeah, we're the Idaho Nonprofit Center, formerly Idaho Nonprofit Development Center. So yeah, yeah, you're good. And we are a 501c3. I don't know if I shared that with you. So, other questions? I've got time for maybe one more. Before we go. Yes?
What, do you know what the lag time is right now, once you apply for your?
You know, it varies. It really
I know
varies.
a couple of years ago, it was like 2 or 3 years. Is it still 2 or 3 years?
It took me 1 year, and I've had people say they got it in a few months, and so I think it really varies, and I think it varies on how well you've done your paperwork. Like, do you have all the pieces in place, and do they have any questions? And so I've heard 3 months, I've heard 2 years, so I really don't know that there's an actual average, but I would just say just plan on it taking a really long time, so when you get it like in a year or 6 months, be super excited.
We just got our letter from the IRS in May, and it said if everything's completed, it should be 1 to 3 months, and if they're missing pieces, it should be 6 months to 1 year. So that was in May.
no, and I've been through this quite some time, but the average time for going 513C is like a year and a half.
Yeah, I got mine in a year. You just never know. Like you said,
And that's actually quick.
if you've got all of your stuff together, you're going to be good. So I think we're done for time, but don't forget to come back to the library. Please come to, we're here the third Thursday of every month. The legal clinic is here the first Thursday. So if you have specific legal questions, it's a great place to go. And I thank you for the gift of your time today.
Also, we would love to hear from you. If you guys want to fill out the evaluations, you can just leave them on your chair. That would be awesome. But thank you.
Thumbs going down.
Mark told me like 12 times.
Oh, okay. Bye, Amy.